It's 5:31 on the 24th of September, and I'll call this meeting to order now. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Thank you. We now have our land acknowledgement. Giovanni, are you ready?
There you go. Does it
It's time. Is the mic working?
land acknowledgement? Evergreen Public Schools resides on the traditional lands of the Chinookan people and the Cowlitz tribe. They have lived on and cared for this land and its waterways since time immemorial. We thank them for their stewardship and make this acknowledgement to open a space of recognition, inclusion, and respect for all Indigenous students, families, and staff in our community.
Thank you, Giovanni. Next item is to adopt the agenda for this evening's meeting.
I move to adopt tonight's agenda as presented.
Second. Been moved and seconded to adopt tonight's agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously. That is our agenda. So the first item on the agenda for tonight is public comments. We have 2 people signed up to speak tonight. And you will have a maximum of 3 minutes each. Although the board will not engage in dialogue, the chair may ask a speaker a clarifying question or follow up at a later time on an issue raised during public comment. There's no mechanism whereby someone can donate some of or all of their time to another speaker. No individual may speak more than once per regular meeting, even if there's time remaining, and please state your name and district affiliation, if any. The first person signed up to speak tonight is Bob Friedland. Mr. Friedland, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Bob Friedland. Is the microphones working? Great. And I am a volunteer member of the Clark County Developmental Disability Advisory Board. I would describe myself as an older retired white man with curly gray hair, and I wear glasses. Attending remotely with me is Angela Gomez from the Department of Community Services of Clark County, who provides important support to our advisory board. Hi, Angela. Clark County, the Developmental Disability Advisory Board is charged with advising the Clark County counselors on issues and services related to developmental disabilities throughout Clark County. This October will be Disability Employment Awareness Month nationwide. As part of this celebration, the advisory board will be hosting the Disability Employment Awareness Awards. Our theme this year is Access to Good Jobs for All, supporting meaningful employment in Clark County. Our very festive event will be held on Wednesday, October 9th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. These awards honor people with developmental disabilities in Clark County who contribute to a dynamic, productive, and inclusive workforce. Many of the nominees and award winners are former students here in Clark County. The celebration also recognizes extraordinary efforts of large and small businesses in our community who employ people with developmental disabilities. The live in-person event will be held at Clark College in Geyser Hall, located at 1933 Fort Vancouver Way in Vancouver. The event will also be live streamed and recorded on CVTV for those who prefer to watch remotely. This is a free public event. For registration information, please call 564-397-2130 or send an email to dd.program@clark.wa.gov. I'll repeat that phone number for the record, which is 564-397-2130. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate those comments. The next person is Jennifer Wallace. Jennifer, are you here? Good evening.
My voice is trying to go today, but hopefully it'll hang on. So my name is Dr. Jennifer Wallace, and I am a teacher at Gila. Before I came to teaching, I was actually a writer. So whenever I sit down to compose something like this letter, I always think, oh, I want to show, don't tell. I want to give illustrative examples, and then I want you, the audience, to arrive at the patterns or the themes yourself. But 3 minutes does not give much time for illustrative storytelling. Furthermore, I do not want this letter to be about any individual person or example, because what I'm about to say transcends one incident. So instead, in a moment, I will just state the patterns I have observed while working here, and I will leave it up to you all to confirm my observations by asking other teachers about their experiences. Ready? So my intuitive observation is that ASC staff are disempowered or even afraid of making decisions or offering opinions. When I first experienced ASC staff stonewalling, redirecting, or flat out ignoring direct questions, I placed the blame on the individual. I thought that person was trying to shirk work or that they were underskilled for the job. But as it kept happening over and over again across people and across departments, I have begun to suspect that many of the staff are afraid to talk, lest they say something wrong. Why I couldn't say. From where I sit, I can only observe the cultural norms. I cannot explain how they came about. I'll leave that all up for you guys to figure out. But it needs to change. We need our leaders at all levels, not just at the top, empowered to make decisions within their scope of practice. We need our leaders to feel encouraged and even confident to discuss problems and brainstorm solutions at the lowest possible levels. Teachers should not have to resort to referencing contract language in a formal grievance to be heard and replied to. Empowering and practicing problem solving at the lowest levels through restorative conversations would be in alignment with what the district claims to laud. Additionally, it is a trauma-informed practice, and after the last few years, I think everyone in the district could use some trauma-informed care. But let's start small, with just encouraging staff to return teachers' emails and answer direct questions honestly when asked. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. This concludes the public comments section of the meeting. The next item on the agenda is our board consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the board consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the board's consent agenda as presented. I think it was Julie. Yeah, Julie seconded. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is, I think, the superintendent's consent agenda, right? Is there a motion?
I move to approve the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
Seconded.
Instructors Gronwalt and, what's your name?
Witherspoon.
Weatherspoon. To approve the superintendent's consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is Superintendent Dr. Christine Maloney updating the board. Dr. Maloney?
Thank you very much. All right. I actually want to start with the color run. I was out at Pioneer Elementary earlier in the week, and then I was asked if I had some moments that I could come by and visit the color run. This is an incredible event that's put on during the day. There was actually lots of parents in attendance there as well. And they raised around $25,000, this Parent Teacher Association. And this is a one-day fundraiser for the entire year. And they give back all that money to the staff and the students there at Pioneer Elementary. It was an incredible event, and it was so much fun to see the principal and the associate principal dressed up in some blow-up costumes, and they were running around with the children doing the color run, and the parents were there taking lots of pictures, and it was a lot of fun. And so I did, I got an honorary t-shirt out of the deal, and Megan Taylor, I want to do a shout out for her and her entire PTA board and the work that they put in there and what they do for kids every day. This is just one example of the incredible PTA associations that we have here in the district and the great things that they do for staff and students. That money, again, goes right back into the classroom and right for those students, and lots of different activities and field trips and all sorts of things. So what a fun way to end my week on Friday, midday. So I was out there doing that. Actually, back on Thursday morning, I hosted Coffee and Conversation with Christine, which is the first of parent conversations. And I will be hosting a couple of more coming up, one a month about for the year. And a great time with a wide variety of parents from different backgrounds and with students of different ages from a wide variety of our schools. So that's what we're looking for each time, is a great mix of parents to come and just share things that are going great, stories they want to share about their children and experiences here in Evergreen. And sometimes they, well, not sometimes, they did come up with some great ideas as well about ways that we can better serve families and students. And so wonderful conversations there. Attended 2 leadership gatherings last week, one for elementary, one for secondary. And this is where our building leaders and instructional coaches were engaged in learning the professional development training that they're going to be providing to teachers around our new student growth goal process. And so they were definitely engaged, and that will be rolled out within the next month or so to staff. I also attended the Student Advisory Council, our SAC meeting, and you'll hear from our student representatives a little bit later, along with Director Bocanegra, and great conversations there as well. I was asked to present on cell phone policies and the process that we are undertaking right now to ESD 112 superintendents. So there was a little under about 35 superintendents in the room. And so that was last week as well. So I was happy to provide them what we are currently undergoing and our discussions and process. And then I have prior experience with this as well. Regional law enforcement meeting. This was my first meeting, and the first meeting of the year. It was with Vancouver Police Department, with our Clark County Sheriff's Office, with ESD 112, and other organizations that are around safety and security. There's some great work that's happening. Our own district safety and security representatives came as well. And we are looking at ways to become more globally efficient and effective in responses to different types of emergencies, and wanting to really make sure that our communication is very consistent in our security protocols. So we use, I mentioned last time, I Love You Guys protocols, and there's different things with hold and secure and lockdown and those type of things. So our own communication department has moved forward, Executive Director Craig Birnbach, and we are going to be creating short specific videos around our security protocols that we can roll out to our staff and to our families. So it's very simple, easy things you click on and you can understand and see visuals around an explanation around those different protocols. And we're going to make it such that other districts can utilize it as well, and they can put their district logo at the front end of the video, use our video, and we're making it generic enough so it's not specific for Evergreen schools. Sharing that across our region for people to utilize. And they're doing other things as well that they'll share back with us too. So great collaboration that's occurring around safety and security, not only for our own district and our own schools, but across the region. Lots of things on my list. So today I had I invited in Vancouver Autism Mom Support Group leader, Melissa Dodge, and we had a great conversation. She represents about 1,500 families here in Clark County that have students with autism. And so we had a great conversation today. So I'm reaching out to different groups and learning about what services that they provide our families, and if there's different ways that we could possibly do some partnering, et cetera. And I visited classrooms, lots of classrooms this week, as well as a couple of different schools. Loved that, walking in and out of schools or classrooms. I visited the dual language program over at Marion as well, and got to see some not only dual language Spanish and English, but also ASL at the same time in the classroom. And so that was actually kind of eye-opening to me because I had not thought about that. So that was trilingual in that classroom versus just dual language for some of the students in there. So that was amazing to watch the staff working with the students regarding that. So that's kind of like a whole bunch of different things that are happening in the life here of the superintendent and experiences here in Evergreen. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maloney. Are there any questions for her? All right, seeing none. The next item on our agenda is labeled presentation. I have a note about that.
Okay.
That's Bobby.
Executive Director Bobby Height of, let's see, it's new title, so it's Instruction and Leadership.
Leadership.
Yes, Instruction and Leadership. Yes.
Good evening, Board of Directors and Superintendent and Maloney, Superintendent Maloney. I am here to talk about our cell phone survey results, kind of a high level what we saw based on the survey that was pushed out to our building admin, to our staff and our community. We had it open from September 4th through September 12th, and we had almost 3,000 responses from our community, and we had about 550 responses from our staff. And our admin have a combination of feedback both through this Parent Square as well as conversations that we've been having with them since last spring. Kyle Olson has been leading that charge, working with our building admin, pulling their cell phone policies and procedures that they have in their schools. And so the data that we have from our admin is a combination of Parent Square and then also the direct conversations we've been having with them through this whole process of understanding what is occurring out in our individual schools. The one group that is not represented in the survey are our students. And Superintendent Maloney and Director Bocanegra met with our Student Advisory Committee on September 17th to discuss cell phones. And it's going to be on the Student Advisory Committee agenda on October 17th, and they will have that discussion there. And then the results of that feedback and information will be shared at the school board meeting on October 22nd. So we just want to ensure that our student voice is represented as well, and that will occur at the late October school board meeting. So with that, we have some high level data to share today. And so this question is, do you feel cell phone use during class time disrupts student learning? So we have our admin results, our staff results, and our family results. And obviously, the graph is pretty clear that they do believe it disrupts student learning. Next question is at the elementary level. Do you support limiting cell phone usage in elementary school? Admin at elementary, entire school day beginning bell to end bell versus allowed during recess, lunch, and or recess time. Staff results, off and away all day, beginning bell to ending bell, and then some different categories. I do not support any kind of cell phone policy, allowed only during lunch and recess, allowable based on teacher classroom rules. So again, the data is pretty clear at elementary in all three categories between admin, staff, and family. And moving on, and I also just want to say that you guys also have the comments. We did get comments directly from admin and from staff, and so you should have those in a spreadsheet so you can kind of see specific feedback from there. We did not do comments for our families in the survey, so you should have that directly. Middle school. We have admin results. Again, entire school day, beginning bell to ending bell. And then also we have some varying options around when cell phones can be brought out during the school day, whether that's after school, during passing periods, during lunch, allowable in the classroom based on teacher discretion, and it's a tool for educational purposes. And then again, you can kind of see there's a range of opinions on when and how a cell phone should be utilized throughout the middle school day. Moving on to high school. Our admin results and how limiting cell phones would be, what might it look like as our students age up through the system. We kind of have a split, like the data is some are, yep, off and away all day. And then some are allowed before school, after school, and during lunch. So I think there are some interesting pieces, and also comparing what are the policies and procedures that our schools are currently implementing, right? And how this compares to the data. The final piece is what grade level should cell phone guidelines implementation begin? Consistently across the board, implement with a K-12 lens. So we would start at elementary level with some sort of policy throughout the different levels. Do you support cell phone expectations approved by building admin for specific teacher guided classroom projects? That would be the data for that question. Are you aware of any cell phone policy or policies at your child's school? And this is the yes and no results of that question. And then this is an interesting one. Have you or your student ever experienced bullying due to cell phone use during school hours? That concludes the results of the data. And again, you have the comments for you to look through. And of course, we will also be looking for feedback from our students as you continue to move through this process.
Thank you, Bobby. Are there any questions for Bobby Height?
Can you go back to the slide where you had how many people, for high school specifically, how many people wanted the policy versus didn't want the policy, like in terms of during the day, part of the day, et cetera? Didn't look even.
We'll also provide you a copy of this because this was just put together from the data. So we'll provide that for each board member.
Thank you.
Yeah, that one. Do you support, so for families, do you support limiting cell phone use in high schools? Off and away all day is about, we'll say 550,
Mm-hmm.
and that's out of 3,000?
Yeah, we had 2,900 responses. And of course, our families are going to be at various levels between elementary, middle, and high school.
Mhm.
So
I guess my thing is, it seems like the majority of people support a partial policy versus off and away all day.
that's what the data is saying at high school.
And the comments we received were all through email, correct?
No.
They were delivered via, yes, a spreadsheet from the comments from Parent Square.
They're going to give us another.
And you meant, oh, sorry.
Okay, but I thought the part of the,
Oh, and I think
The
they were
survey was
asked to
to
email
email.
you directly too. Correct.
We did get about 90 emails.
so there was more comments in
Yes.
addition to that? Okay,
That came from Parent Square.
okay.
Mhm.
110. You mentioned we don't have the student results here,
Correct.
but I thought it was going out to 5th grade through 12th grade.
We did not survey students through
Oh, we
Parent
didn't.
Square.
Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
I thought we had
At the last board meeting, we had like 130 responses from students.
Mm, I haven't seen data from students.
I think it was a mix. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a mix, but we had some. I just want to make sure we're not going to just dismiss the students that were able to get through, because most of our students were not able to use that survey, especially on their cell phones.
So I don't know that we surveyed students.
My student got it.
Okay.
So I know that it went out to students.
I would have to check that detail. I know that they're going to come through the student advisory committee, but I would definitely say if there's data that we have from kids from Parent Square, then we should pull that forward.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah. We'll troubleshoot that.
We do a quick double check over here
'cause I
regarding
thought-
what went out for that, and make sure you have the correct information.
Because we had asked I just wanted numbers broken out last board meeting. So I just want to make sure that if there are some in there,
That we get those.
that we get them.
Yeah, I know the comments had 5 or 10 students in there,
Yeah, it was,
not many.
I kept
When-
telling them that to answer the survey, and they kept trying, and it just wasn't
I
working
want, yeah, so
properly.
some sort of
So,
technical piece to it.
yeah,
Okay. Well, we're going to share the student results on October 22nd. So my recommendation would be if we do have some student data through Parent Square, that we could share that on the October 22nd school board meeting, along with the work that Giovanni and Nevaeh are going to be doing at the student advisor committee meeting.
absolutely. I just want to make sure if we did get it, that we didn't just dismiss it.
Thank you.
We
Yes.
brought it forward. Thank you, Bobby.
Yep. Anything else?
I think we covered it.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Do you have any questions? Giovanni, Nevaeh, I forgot. Are there any questions for Ms. Height?
For your high school data, how you had it represented,
Mhm.
When you got that data, did you know, I don't know if it tells you, but if I remember right, when it comes to doing these surveys on from books and stuff like that, it's very wacky.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
so,
that's what Director Ronwald's saying.
yes, so
Mhm.
that's why these results are mixed up, because I know Weatherspoon, you did with student responses, you did send them forward to me and Nevaeh. And so there was student responses. It's just as well from what I know, these student responses, a lot of students didn't even know there was a survey out. And so with most of them being like, oh, Parent Square, ill, right? They don't really want to go through that whole process, like downloading a whole app, all this and all that. And especially doing these surveys, we didn't really have any, like a lot of students that I know are really busy.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of things going on in our lives. And they don't really have the time to even fit in the survey like this, especially during school hours, especially even going through passing period. I mean, some schools have like huge buildings. So walking across, you have to walk across the whole campus just to get to one class. And some have to walk again, another whole campus. And so with these survey results, I just wanted to know for high school level, if these parents, did they survey based on just one kid, or are they basing like off of every, like let's say they have like one high school kid, one elementary kid, were these just straight like, oh, like they're only doing the survey based off what their high school, like what they want for their high school kid, or is it for all their students in their family?
Right. So if I'm a parent and I have 2 kids, one at middle school and one at high school, I would hopefully be able to do the survey to be able to speak to both of those experiences for kids, would be what I would do as a parent. Now, did all of our parents do that, or did they only speak for the student that they feel is having being the most impacted by the usage of a cell phone? There could be a variety of ways our parents are completing that survey, because elementary might be less of a concern, right?
Yeah.
So I might not be completing something for my elementary child, but I might be focusing on my high school child.
Yeah.
So I think but I appreciate also you naming, the difficulty for students to be able to fill to complete the survey, given the hectic day, the technology barriers and things like that. And so those are things we will look to your feedback for to do better on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from Nevaeh? Okay, thank you, Bobby.
We do have some late breaking news.
Okay.
So 176 students did fill out the survey out of the family survey that went out. So 176 used their district student email to fill it out.
I knew it, I knew it was like a low number, but I thought there were some. So thank you, Diana, for checking on that.
There were some, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the Student Advisory Committee comes up with to enrich that data, make sure that their voice is in it. Okay. Ready for the next item? Next item on our agenda is policy development. With respect to policy 1250, students on governing boards. You can see on the screen the edit that we talked through last time, and I think this is the second board meeting where we're discussing it. Is this our first or second reading for this policy changing? It's our first reading. Okay,
Yeah, we workshopped it.
we workshopped it. Gotcha. And it consists of change from junior and senior from each high school to a junior and a senior. Is there a motion to advance this to second reading?
I move that we advance policy number 1250 to a second reading.
Seconded.
Motion is to advance policy 1250 to a second reading. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of advancing to second reading?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Probably the easiest policy work we've done in 5-6 years. The next item on the agenda is an instruction and school programs update. Dr. Maloney?
I'd like to invite our new chief academic officer. I believe this is day 11. Is that correct?
12.
Day 12. There we are. And he will share an update for the board.
Thanks.
Dr. Fox?
Good evening, President Perkins, members of the board. This evening, I have 4 topics to share with you as part of the Teaching, Learning, and Equity update. Can you click on the presentation and show the first slide? Are you able to do that, Lori? Thank you. Super, thank you. So we have 4 topics. And the next slide, Teaching, Learning, and Equity is the title we use when talking about several departments. Let's go to the next slide. Several departments or groups of people who are all working towards student success. Having served as a teacher and school principal, I would venture to say that the heavy lifting in working towards student success is done in each of the schools, represented by that schoolhouse there. Many of us not in the schools, but also working towards student success, identify as part of the TLE team, represented there on the bottom. We see ourselves as important resources and support to the building leaders and school staff who work directly with students each day. At your last meeting on September 10th, you heard from Senior Directors of Instruction and Leadership Alex Shiwi and Griffin Payton. They showed photos of the first weeks of school and shared about much of what they saw on their school visits. Alex and Griffin work with Executive Director of Instruction and Leadership, Bobby Height. And this trio of leaders have divided up the 38 schools in our system and are working hard to build relationships with school leaders and ensure that they have all the support and resources necessary to meet the needs of staff and students. These folks are important TLE members. Bobby, Alex, and Griffin make it their priority to be in the schools. This is their work. Alex and Griffin schedule most of each day to be in the schools, and when they're there, it's a hands-on experience. I've had the opportunity to visit a few schools with them, have observed them working directly with students, staff, parents, and of course, building administrators. Next slide. Another important department in the Teaching, Learning, and Equity group is Student Services. Picture doesn't quite match yet. Follow me here. As director and assistant director, Cale Pyland and Jason Castro are involved in several services to Evergreen students, including student discipline and discipline hearings, restorative practices, attendance, school counselors, graduation, and athletics, this evening's focus. The work done by Cale and Jason has incredible impact on attendance, one of our priorities. It's important to get kids to school and to keep kids in school, and our athletics program helps do just that. In addition, studies show that participation in youth sports is linked with higher levels of academic achievement and creativity. It also helps improve educational qualities such as critical thinking and determination. Participation in sports is even more impactful and exciting when you're a member of the Heritage Timberwolves football team when they end a 20-game losing streak with a 43-7 victory over Fort Vancouver, which they did on September 7th. Yes, insert applause there. They went on to win their next game as well on the 13th against Hudson's Bay. Their win on the 7th was the first for the Timberwolves since October 15th, 2021. Now, I'm still learning a lot about this community, so I'm asking plenty of questions. And when asking about heritage football and when reading about heritage football in the media, it's clear that our football players are doing well in part because of Coach Peterson and the coaching staff that he has built at Heritage. Relationships are critical to building a culture of belonging, and it appears that relationships are building a strong team of players. The program at Heritage has grown significantly, so we offer congratulations to Kevin Peterson, his coaching staff, and the 100-plus players. Next, I'd like to highlight an event in our College, Career, and Technical Education Program, or CCTE. On September 12th, we hosted 110 students from our 4 comprehensive high schools, as well as Battleground and Skyview, in this room for an orientation and training event as they prepare to work at student-run campus branches of IQ Credit Union. Our CCTE program gives students the chance to explore different careers, learn about the workplace, and gain skills that can help them succeed after they graduate. Business and marketing is one of the 8 program areas offered in EPS. Classes we offer help students learn about careers in accounting, banking, finance, entrepreneurship, business management, sales, advertising, and marketing research. Last week, I learned that with 2,116 FTE enrolled in CCTE courses, our district is number 1 in the state. We have a larger student enrollment in CCTE than any other district in Washington. At the IQ student professional event, the IQ CEO and Superintendent Dr. Maloney greeted students, and then a panel of former campus branch students who have gone on to careers at IQ spoke and answered questions. This event was a hope and a dream for several years and required the planning and collaboration of many people. Recognizing the effort of many other people on her team and the engagement of so many students, Director of CCTE Kim Burhow shared, "We could not have asked for a better rollout or participation. It was awesome." Lastly, I'd like to highlight efforts made to ensure equity, inclusion, and belonging, since this is one of our core values. In Evergreen Public Schools, we see, celebrate, and value individual identities and want to make sure students see themselves and others reflected in their learning and in their school environment. To that end, we will celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15th through October 15th. And during this time, we honor the rich history, culture, and contributions of Hispanic and Latino communities. This slide features some student artwork from Legacy from last year's celebration. Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Jamila Singleton, has prepared information for all EPS staff to use in noticing, naming, and affirming students from our Hispanic community. She has provided many resources for our staff as they plan their efforts around this celebration. While themes of Hispanic history and culture will be integrated in many ways throughout the year, we will focus on Hispanic heritage this fall, culminating in a showcase at Mountain View High School on October 15th, beginning at 5 p.m. And of course, you're all invited to attend. Jamila has prepared a multicultural calendar, including some of the national heritage, diversity, and appreciation months we will celebrate in our district, and we'll get a copy or a link to you as soon as it is complete. That's it. Unless you have questions or comments, this concludes the Teaching, Learning, and Equity Update.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. Are there questions for him?
Dr. Fox, you had mentioned Bobby, Alex, and Griffin are at the schools meeting with leaders. Would that include students, do you know? Or
I observed them working with students as well. Yeah, a lot of the time they're working with the building administrators, but there's also plenty of opportunity to get into the classrooms, interact with the kids, let them read to them, and I watched that and experienced that myself.
thanks.
You talked about student services with Kale and Jason. Are one or both of those individuals is also in charge of the Excel services or the highly capables?
Not highly capable, no, that is within the curriculum and instruction department, but not, to my knowledge, overseen by Kale and Jason.
Okay, okay. Then I heard wrong. I apologize for that. And no, congratulations, T-Wolves. Way to go. Nevaeh, Giovanni, do you have any questions for Dr. Fox? All right, hearing none. Thank you for your presentation. Our next agenda item is the Student Board Representative Report. Take it away, guys.
I don't know if it's okay. For our first report, we'll be talking about the why, what, and when from our first Student Advisory Council meeting. So the why. Oh, higher. Okay. The Student Advisory Council is a student-led group that gathers students from across the district, and we gather our ideas and recommend them to the board. The who. Almost all of our schools showed up. We had very good attendance with the first meeting, and we're so excited for the next one. And our when. Our meeting was last Thursday, September 9th.
So for our first, student advisory council meeting, we had 4 head topics, as you say. And our first one, which we had our students that participated in the meeting, we had them go around and we had poster boards, put up on the walls, and we would give them Post-it notes, and that we invited them to, really put their, feet outside of their comfort zone and really, spark up their ideas and put them on the, Post-it boards without having any shame in them. And so our students, were gathering around, they were pacing back and forth, going to board to board to board. And that's when we, slowly started seeing those boards just fill up with beautiful ideas. And one of our boards was focused on attendance. So with these boards, we would have a positive and a negative question to it. Our positive is, what is keeping students coming to school? And some students have said they're having good connection with their staffs, as well with friends, and the interest in a content presented by their teachers. Now, on the negative side for that is, what is preventing students from coming to school? And what they have said is teachers being rude, schoolwork, bullying from students, and even as well staff, and they don't find meaning in the coursework that they are following through with. And so, gathering all that data, it really shows that all these students are on the same page with that. As a lot of them, we did tell them, if you agree with one idea that's already presented on the Post-it board, either check mark it, star it, do whatever you want to really say that, oh, I favor that one. Our next Post-it board idea would be belonging. And our positive question to that is, what is something that helps you feel connected to school? And we asked a why to that. A lot of students had involvement, specifically from clubs, as well with clubs that really represent their culture, as we have Mecca, BSU, CSU, a lot of clubs that really, they feel they can connect with. School spirit, we have noticed that with school spirits, a lot of students, when they see other students participating with them, they would, oh, I'll go along with it. As you would see school spirit as some corny little thing, but when you really see a lot of students, following the wave, you decided to want to join the wave too. We as well notice school ran social medias. A lot of social media ran by the ASB teams for that school. They would either post stuff out, make it nice and fun and lively. And as well, staff interaction was really key for what they wrote. As I asked them the question as, when you arrive to school, do you ever have a teacher that you just immediately go up to? That you're like, man, this happened to me today, or I did this last week, and you just start talking and talking. And they all said yes. So that really makes them want to go to school. That makes them feel like, oh, I have a teacher I can really connect with. Our other one is safety. Our positive question for that is, what makes you feel safe at school? With that, it was really diverse with what was presented by the students. A lot of students said they have close relationships with teachers at their school, social media, and friendship. But we did notice there was a lot of, in a way, controversy with what makes you feel unsafe at school. Most of them really said hostile and violent energy. As walking to classrooms, you already feel like it's hectic. You already feel like, oh, I don't even want to be here already. And when they're walking the halls, you walk in the halls and you see students getting pushed up the lockers, or you see a student on the ground for some reason, and you'd see security just standing back. They as well said stories from elsewhere, as they would refer to rumors, gossip, things posted from social medias. And their key point in which I had to, in a way, leech out of them was they said that social media is a good thing, that it's amazing, it can be used for many things, but it can be the most horrible thing on this earth. Social media is the most controversial subject for high schoolers right now, and it can even branch out to middle schoolers. As social media right now is being used, post about your life, show beautiful things you have in your life, but it can be so ugly really quick. So they as well continued on with peer pressure and lack of security presence. And as well, another key note that they highlighted was having drills unannounced. A lot of them said that with their buildings already having past experiences, where it can be involved from school shootings to threats, when they have a drill unannounced and they don't know about it, that first feeling they get, it drops their heart. It makes them freeze up, tense up, as if they are reliving that exact moment. And with having those unannounced drills, it could really cause a huge panic until maybe like 5 seconds later, they say, this is a drill. With that, it makes the students feel like angry, and that, oh, you can just at least let us know we're having a drill today, as leaving them hanging and having that big heart drop, and your stomach's gathering those butterflies, and not the good ones. We're talking about the bad ones. And so those charts, we all made them as agreements, in that we were reviewing them every student advisory council meeting. We would be looking at them, we would come back to them, and as well, they did notice that those words that we had as the key notes, they all connected in some way or another. They would notice that, oh, this sticky note also belongs here, or this sticky note would belong there. So that's what we really focused on with that meeting. What's next for our next meeting, which is October 17th? I'm starting to plan on facilitating with cell phone policy. We are going to start digging into student data and how we can really incorporate that with what the policies we will bring out for everyone in the district against or with cell phone policy. We will be using questions from the cell phone survey, as a lot of our students didn't have access to the survey. And even at our last meeting, when we talked about cell phones, it really sparked a lot of students up. And so we will be going more in depth and connecting our voices together with cell phones.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the students?
I have a question. So earlier you mentioned that surveys are not a good way to get student information, right?
Yeah.
So what should we do instead?
With surveys, a lot of students have been saying with surveys is that with the people that are higher up, they use more, like they would say complicated words. I wouldn't say they want it to be dumbed down, more clarifying for them,
So written by students for students?
written by students for students, since when they have someone that is higher up trying to take in charge of them, and they're trying to I'll hear you out, and we can work on this together. It makes them feel like not they wouldn't trust the situation, as when they would feel like when they have someone on their side doing this for them, they have more of a grip on it and they can trust it, and they'll be like, oh yeah, they're fighting for us. They're making us have a voice. And with adult controlling the surveys, writing the questions, it makes them feel as they need to be careful. They need to tread lightly.
You also mentioned that students don't have time to respond to surveys. So if the students aren't going to have time to do the surveys, what's a better way of getting their feedback?
Feedback as well is dedicating classroom time, as maybe even a couple minutes wouldn't hurt instructional time unless it's, there's something major happening in the classroom. But if we communicated well with staff on, oh, we have this survey, or, however a way we're going to implement it, and that we need student voices to be heard, I know a lot of staff will be like, yep, I'm right on board. I can, spare a couple minutes even of just class time for them to fill it out. As I know at my school, we even have surveys for DJ music playlist, and they take time out of class. Guys, let's fill this out, put some songs in, you know, and then you can go look up songs and, see what you can throw in, just don't put anything explicit. I think if staff can put in time for something like that isn't really related to any policymaking, then I think that with cell phone survey or how we're going to implement it, they can definitely put, a little time into that.
Thank you.
You also mentioned last week, I believe, that the survey got buried at the very bottom of the bulletin.
Yes. So with cell phone surveys, a lot of schools, I noticed that they post it out. They either put it into what my school calls it, a daily digest. They bury it as far as they can to the bottom, and there's even in smaller text, and so you would have to really scroll to find it. And even funnier, it was hard for us to access it, and so it was just kind of like all odds against us. Oh well, we can't fill out the survey, and so I think schools did not take the survey seriously. They did not. They really just pushed it to the side and say, if students find it, they can fill it out. It doesn't matter.
I guess to my point to that, though, is what other valuable information may be in that daily digest that maybe they're not reading because there's so much information. And so maybe smaller messages, maybe more frequent, smaller messages might be a better way to communicate.
Yeah, with more, frequent, more important messages, as a lot of messages that they do is repeated. They repeat a lot of their messages, and with that, it's kind of stuff we already know.
Mm.
And even funny, they present it all over the place. They put it on school TVs, they put it in slideshows, things that we already see on repeat. And especially with something so important like this, they should really put it at the top and really say, this is valuable that we need to have this done. And a lot of schools did not convey it that way.
Did they give you a QR code?
To be honest, they didn't even show it to us in class. I don't remember seeing a cell phone survey. I think I was told about one, but I wasn't told directions on how to access it.
Right. I just wondered about QR codes because they're easy for me.
Maybe we should go back old school with a box in the lunchroom and a piece of paper with voting, like the check marks
Yes,
and during the lunch hours.
And somebody's going to have to collate it anyway. We have computers for that now, don't we? Oh, I really appreciate the depth of thought that the SAC put into the questions that you posed, positive and negative. It sounded like it was really fruitful.
Yeah,
Um,
there was a lot of talking as we even had to say, like, it's time to cut it down. Yeah, guys, let's move on. Let's get into something else. And it kind of like it took them a while to really calm down and, move on to the next thing as conversations actually just never stopped. They were still going on. I would still notice people talking. The corner of my ear, I just hear them still talking about it. And like, wow, it just shows how passionate our students really are with, putting a voice out there and really, really stepping out their comfort zone. I mean, I know some students there and they're shy and they've taken leaps of faith. And I really, I really applaud that as those types of moments can really encourage a student to really go up the ladder.
I really appreciate the insight on the drills, especially with us reading The Anxious Generation. Those can cause some pretty severe trauma and anxiety. So I appreciate that. I don't think I would have ever thought about that without that input. So thank you
Yeah,
for
I
that.
appreciate that too. And when we were in school, it was fire drills, and there are more categories of drills now, and it's really important to, I guess, be mindful of that shock. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Giovanni Nevea. Yeah, and yeah, that's a lot of great information, and you guys are off to a great start with that advisory council, and appreciate the feedback, both positive and negative.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions for the students? Thank you again for the detail in the presentation. We really appreciate that. The next item on our agenda is our good news report. Dr. Maloney, do you have? Yep, there he is.
Welcoming to the podium is Executive Director of Communications, Craig Burnbach, with good news.
Yes. Good evening, Board of Directors, Dr. Maloney. I'm going to have to do some real scrolling as fast as I can because this is our first good news report since June, because we don't do one over the summer. So we have good news that was during the summer, right before school and right after school. I'm going to start with some of our welcome back to school. Dr. Maloney talked about it. We did a nice a video, Dr. Maloney riding the bus to Sifton Elementary School. A lot of smiles, awesome kids in this video. I think people should take a look at it. We did our annual get to every single school for a back to school event. So that's 38 schools. We had everything. We had barbecues, we had meet the teachers, we had orientations, we had kids getting their IDs, just a lot of great pictures from some great events at our schools as we got back to school. We did that in the first week of school and a little bit before school started. So this was posted on our social media and there's pictures from every single school. I told you I was going to have to scroll fast. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
maybe
a lot of pictures, Craig.
Yes, we did. We took a lot, and that's not all of them. Giovanni talked about school spirit. Shehala had a school spirit assembly on a Friday, the last thing on a Friday. It was awesome. It was loud. It was fun. There was some competition between the grades on who could cheer louder in certain things, who could follow directions. And there was a very cool kind of, I don't know what to call it, obstacle course. But as you can see, the staff got involved. That's Mrs. Helm holding up a plastic chicken, very proud of her victory. So I'm very proud of that picture. I was in the right place at the right time for that. They also, many of you met Jay LaFontaine, who's one of our campus security officers, sometimes here in our building. He's been at Shehala for over a decade, but he took a new opportunity right over there at Legacy. So after a decade there, the teachers, staff, and students gave him a nice little thank you there. Before school started, of course, we opened our new transportation building. And right before school started, they gave a very special tour. This is to Talon, who is an autistic student at York Elementary School. But Talon did go to Burton. And so when Burton went down, when they knocked it down to build the transportation building, he noticed and he took a real interest in what was going to happen there. And you can see there's pictures here of town that his mom sent me of. They would go and watch the construction, and he'd watch it build. He reached out through Dawn Harris, the principal there, to see if he could get a tour of the building. And he did. And he got a special tour by Joe, who's one of the lead mechanics there. And as he walked through there, he just kept on saying, I love this building. And he went into every nook and cranny, and it was a really special day for him. We all, of course, know about our new board members. This story here comes from Heritage High School, from a CTE program. And this is Nathan Younger's class. And this was a really cool program that we focused on in this video. They partnered with I always forget the name of a theme park in Oregon that's been around for a long time. And what these students did was they reimagined all the attractions like it's 100 years from now. And they did this by using 3D art. And then they presented these to the owners of the theme park. So they did a Zoom with them. They had all the projects. And the owners of the theme park were just so impressed with all the work that was done by these students. We had a few safety events to talk about. Mountain View High School, right before school, hosted a Clark County School Administrative Safety Summit. About 400 school administrators from all over the region attended. Kelly Henderson was the keynote speaker. She was very impressive. She's a national educator, retired probation counselor from right here in Clark County. She had people laughing, crying, and really engaged. Dr. Maloney talked about her ride along with VPD, so we did share this out, these pictures. And then finally, I want to share something from one of our departments here at the ASC. Our fiscal services department, they don't get to go out in schools very often. So before school started, but once staff were back in the schools, the fiscal service department decided to go visit each school, introduce themselves, and allow for staff members to ask them questions. And they took some pictures, so I didn't even have to take these. So not a group that often gets to go into schools, but they got to meet people. And of course, those relationships and that interaction, I think will help relationships as we move forward. And that is my report, unless there's any questions.
What does it say on the back of the shirt?
So they have a list of the schools, but I don't know.
I know because someone who participated in this told me it says Chillaxin with the Fiskies are not that bad. The 2024 tour.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Okay, our next item is board comments. Does anyone have comments tonight?
I just will say a little bit about the Student Advisory Council that we attended last Thursday, and Giovanni did a really nice recap of everything that happened there. Great group of students, lot of different perspectives from different schools. And it was really fun to kind of see everybody come together. Dr. Maloney did, because they were all kind of sitting together with their high schools. And Dr. Maloney was like, got the old teacher self and her and had them number off. So that way they could mix up when they went to their first assignment. And that way we could really hear and have them start building connections as well. So that was really good to see. And they really leaned into that first activity. So I'm really excited to see the work that they're going to do throughout the school year.
I agree. It was great hearing from our student board. And I also want to thank the two people that commented in public comments. Thank you.
Preparatory work for next week's workshop with respect to the superintendent search is ongoing. I had some conversations, had a conversation with Hank Harris about what I thought needed to be fronted or brought to the forefront as we get ready. There are going to be some 2-on-1 meetings. I think those are all scheduled for Monday, aren't they? Next Monday. Followed by our workshop. So we'll have an opportunity to express our individual preferences for the search, and then we'll come together and talk about it in an open meeting. I want to express appreciation to which now I'm blanking on the name of people I've known for years. Jennifer Johnson. Jennifer? See, Jennifer Jacobson. See, I've known her for years. I'm sorry. She took some time with me last Monday, and we just started talking about fiscal data, and she showed me the back end and how they generate the reports that we see. And we had a really good conversation. She asked me what it is that I would like to see in a fiscal report, and actually produced a spreadsheet out of the system with the same data that we see in the printed warrant reports. And I really just appreciate the time that she took to show me what was possible, and it'll help me contextualize my questions to fiscal services, I think, and not ask for too much, you know. And those are my comments. Anything else?
Yeah, so I've actually had a couple of busy weeks. So I attended my second to last leadership WASDA group in Seattle. And although it was an amazing leadership 2 days, we were unfortunately grounded to the hotel because there was a huge data breach at Highline Public Schools that shut them down for 3 days. So that kind of got my brain going that I think we may need to do some research on what happened there, what came about it, and maybe look into some stuff, because it was even by the time that we were up there, they were back up and running, but they were not digital. So we were not able to go to the schools, which is where we had originally planned all of our meetings and training and everything. So yeah, that was an interesting trip to hear about that. And one of the school board directors from Highline was with us. She's also a school psychologist from one of the other districts. So there was a lot of insight into that. So just as like a pin in our hats, that we might want to look at that a little bit more, especially since it was so close to home. And then I had the greatest pleasure of attending General Assembly this last Friday. It was actually scheduled for Friday and Saturday, but we slammed through all of them, and we finished an hour early on Friday, and we got through every single one of the proposals. It was actually pretty impressive, and as she should have, Trisha took the credit for that, being the new executive director for WASDA. So we didn't go into Saturday. Everything is done, and actually, not long before this meeting, the priorities list came out. So we'll be looking at that at workshop. So I was able to get some stuff to Lori for that. Yeah.
Thank you. I agree with I'm not sure really whether Rob Gardner is already on top of this kind of thing, because news of a data breach like that spreads very quickly. Is that we should examine the attack surfaces and see if we're vulnerable in the way that they were vulnerable, et cetera. Spread the word.
Yeah, because that's a huge district too. And I shivered when I heard about it, because I could only imagine, us being in that position and being proactive instead of reactive, because it's not if, it's when.
To piggyback on Rob's comment about Jennifer and fiscal services, I know I had a question this past week about a couple of the POs and purchase orders, and they're usually very responsive, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Hearing none, the time is coming. It is 6:40 p.m. and we're going to go into a short recess where the board members will sign documents, after which we'll reconvene in our board workshop to discuss the affirmative action report, 2025 levy, top 10 legislative positions for WASDA, section 2 of our board book study and board protocols and calendaring. With respect to 2025 levy, I'm going to ask the board's consent that we defer that item until the next board meeting because the presenter is out sick. Any objections? Okay, we'll proceed forward from there. We're in recess.